Welcome to From Center Ice. My name is Courtney, and how you doing? It's been a while. Since we last spoke, the Blackhawks have gone 3-0. The Rockford Ice Hogs are something like 1-2-1, I want to say. So one team is doing significantly better than the other one, but I haven't been able to sit down in front of this camera and really talk about them, because every time I try to sit down and talk about my teams or write about my teams, including the Leafs, even though they really have nothing to do with this, but it's just the whole talking about hockey thing, my mind just goes completely blank. And I don't think I'm going to be able to cross over that hurdle or that creative block, if you will, which it really isn't even just a creative block, because I feel it in life outside of phones and computers and cameras and all of that as well. But I don't feel like I'm going to be able to jump over that hurdle, we'll go back to that, until I really lay out all of my feelings about what's gone down with the Chicago Blackhawks this year. And by saying this year, I mean all of it coming to light this year. It didn't all happen this year, of course, but we all kind of know what's going on there. I'm not going to jump into specifics in this video, but of course that is dealing with the sexual assault case for the Chicago Blackhawks and Kyle Beach. I've tried quite a few times to write out how I've felt about it. I thought maybe writing would be easier because I could, write a little bit, take a break, write a little bit more. But every time I sat down to do that, it wasn't right, so then I had to erase the whole thing. And this has happened a few times. So if this is up on the YouTube channel and you are watching this, welcome to draft number 100 of me trying to put all of my thoughts together, which has felt absolutely impossible because they're all just kind of a cloud, but like a slippery cloud. So even if you could grasp a cloud, it would slip out of your hands, and then you just don't know what you're left with anymore. And that's how I felt. So I thought maybe I would just sit down in front of the camera and treat this more so kind of like a solo podcast episode, so it's not all high energy and jump cuts like I tried to do with my other solo videos. There might be a few cuts here and there because there are going to be very long pauses where I'm just trying to collect those slippery clouds in my brain. I sat here after I hit the record button on the camera for about 1 minute and 45 seconds before I could even make myself say something. So there will be long pauses like that cut out, so you don't have to just sit here with dead air. But I figure that maybe, just maybe, me sitting here and talking will be able to make me come to some sort of conclusion, which I don't even know what that would be at this point, and then maybe we can get back to those other videos, because that is my goal here, is I want to get back to that. But before we can just sit down and talk about hockey, I have to, I don't know, the hockey doesn't seem important enough to talk about with everything else going on, but it's still important to me. It's important to you. This Rockford Ice Hogs roster, this Blackhawks roster, sans 2 players, are completely new. Nobody was around when that happened. The front office has made the necessary changes. So there's been a lot of, well, get over it going around the internet. I'm sure you've seen that yourself. If you're not one of those people, then I'm sure you've had that directed at you. And if you are one of those people, then just click off of this video. Don't feel the need to leave a comment, because you can't say anything worse to me than I've already said to myself. So just save your time, save my time, and just hit the back button and go watch something else and be sad and miserable. Because you know what? Some people can just move past that and to that, I say I envy you, because I wish I could be somebody that can just move past it, and not in a way that's dismissive of what happened with Kyle and John Doe 2 and Black Ace 1. Not something that's in a dismissive way, just ignoring everything, but being able to just put it in a box that we deal with from time to time, and then also have the rest of my brain with just hockey, because that's not how my brain works. So starting in the spring or early summer, or whenever the story first dropped, I don't remember exactly when, I want to say it was May, we were just coming off of a fairly rough season, or a rough end to the season. At least there was still some hope. The young guys had done good stuff over the year, and I was really excited to talk about some of these guys over the summer, talk about the prospects that had come up from Rockford, give you my thoughts on them from how they played in the AHL to then how they looked playing with the Blackhawks last season in the NHL. But then I just found it hard to even want to talk about the Blackhawks. And as the story kind of faded into the background, as they were going through the whole legal thing, be it right or wrong, that the story did sort of fade into the background and hockey things coming to the forefront, which I think most of us believe that the Blackhawks made some of the moves that they did to kind of force that to happen. It became a bit easier to talk about the team, talk about the things that happen on the ice with this current roster. And then once training camp and everything rolled around, the beginning of the season was here, I was really excited to be able to sit here and talk about the on-ice Blackhawks hockey, the Rockford Ice Hogs finally being back, with us being allowed to go back to games. The Toronto Maple Leafs coming off of yet another Game 7 loss in the playoffs. Follow their season, talk about their season, talk about how they were doing. I was really excited to do all of these things. And then the season got started. I was having fun sitting here, making videos, making podcasts with Jacqueline. Don't worry, we're recording another one tomorrow. This is not in place of a podcast. But all the while talking about the team and on-ice stuff and the moves that they made in the off-season, it was always just in the back of my mind that this case was still ongoing, that the Hawks were still denying that they had done anything wrong, but it was still there, and it was hard to kind of figure out how to go about things, because what From Center Ice is and how it started, what it's always been for these last 3 years, is just the two of us, me and Jacqueline, just being fans of the game of hockey, the fans of the Chicago Blackhawks, fans of the Rockford Ice Hogs. We're not out here to be breaking stories or anything like that. Yes, I do hockey writing, but the From Center Ice wasn't started with anything other than us bringing our fan perspective to people and having conversations around that, because that's where you find the best hockey communities out there on the internet, is in the fan bases, I feel, at least. And we always have fun talking about our teams, talking about hockey, having ridiculous off-topic conversations. So we sat down, we got a mic, said, let's make a podcast, this will be great. And it was great, and it has been great, and continues to be a lot of fun for both of us. But ever since May, it's been more difficult to find it within myself, I guess, wanting to put in the time to sit here and record and then edit, and all the while be thinking about this team, because, as I said, thinking about them, talking about them, even with current day situations, with player moves and how whatever we thought was going to happen coming into this season, it was always just in the back of my mind that they had severely hurt one of their players, and at the time we didn't know who it was. And it's not like that mattered. It would be just as impactful no matter who it was, because sexual assault isn't something to take lightly, and it's not something that you take more seriously or lightly depending on who the survivor slash victim is. That's not what I'm trying to say, but we didn't know who it was, so it was... I don't know where I was going with that sentence. I could just cut that out, but I don't even remember where it started or where I was going, but we didn't know who it was. So come to a few weeks ago, I don't know how long ago it was at this point, but we get the full report released from Jenner and Block detailing their whole investigation into the Blackhawks, talking to former players, staff, the former GM of the team, former coach, former assistant GM of the team. It was long, it was detailed, it was heartbreaking that the team that I have rooted for the past decade could make somebody feel like that. And then the next day, I want to say, or maybe it was 2 days later, I couldn't tell you at the moment which one is the most correct. I feel like it was the next day, Kyle Beach decided to come forward and reveal himself as John Doe 1, and that took incredible amounts of courage and strength to be able to do that, and he had just a heartbreaking interview on TSN with Rick Westhead, who has been on this story from the beginning. And after reading the full report and then watching that interview, it just took everything out of me. And since this is the internet, this is where I have to add a disclaimer or clarify that I can only give you my feelings from a fan perspective of this team. I am not saying that anything that I feel compares anywhere to the scope of what happened to Kyle Beach and how he is feeling because of this team. I just have to clarify that. But this video is to express my feelings coming at it from a fan perspective, because I know that I am not the only one out there who is having a hard time dealing with this, having a hard time rooting for the team with all of this going on, even though, as I've said, the roster is completely different. The Wirtzes made the front office moves, getting rid of the GM. So the team is completely different. Again, sans two players, Kane and Taves, obviously they were around for 2010 with the Cup run. But I started watching the Blackhawks right before the playoffs in 2010. I want to say it was April, maybe April 17th. I don't know. It could have been March, whatever. It was a game against Anaheim. Crawford was in net. It's the only game he played that year in the regular season. It's a whole thing. But that was the first Blackhawks game that I sat down and watched, and from that game until now, I have been hooked on the game of hockey. It only took one, and I fell in love with that team. I've told people many times over the years that, oh, I was lucky to start watching then, right before the 2010 playoffs, right before they started their 3 cups in 6 years dynasty. And now we find out that this team, the one that made me fall in love with the game of hockey, that made me fall in love with the Chicago Blackhawks, caused somebody else immeasurable amounts of pain. I'm not going to sit here and blame every single guy on that roster, because we don't know who did what or who went through what. But every time those guys hit the ice, they're wearing the Blackhawks sweater. You get the logo, and it's a symbol. It's a symbol for what most fans felt the past decade, or for those 6 years at least, just some of the happiest and most fun moments and memories of our lives. I've had some of my best moments watching hockey games, whether it's just on the couch with friends or family, going to games, going to the rally at Soldier Field after the 2015 win, going to multiple Blackhawks conventions during the summer. I've spent the last decade of my life mostly doing things that involve watching hockey, reading about hockey, talking about hockey, and most of that is centered around the Blackhawks because they're my team. And maybe it is just because they're my hometown team. I live in Blackhawks land, roughly, but that's the team that I fell in love with. They're the ones that I watched that first game on the TV, and they're my team. And I haven't been able to figure out how to come to terms with the fact that the thing that symbolizes some of my best moments, best memories, some of the times I've been the happiest in my life, I haven't been able to come to terms with the thing that symbolizes all of those fantastic, wonderful things. Being the Chicago Blackhawks, in turn, symbolizes the absolute worst thing that happened to not just one person in their entire life. So there I was in 2010 rooting for my team to win the Stanley Cup, and just knowing that they put winning that cup above taking care of one of their own guys and brushing his pain off to the side because they were more focused on winning a championship. How do you come to terms with that? And I know logically there's nothing any of us could have done. We didn't know it was happening. We didn't have the authority to fire Bradley Aldrich. But just thinking of the contrast of that moment in time being so joyful, so happy, some of the highest highs that some people felt, and knowing that at the very same moment somebody else was going through the worst thing that's happened to them. Hopefully, not hopefully, you know what I mean. Hopefully nothing worse has happened to them, but that was going on at the same time. It makes the thoughts in my head disappear because I don't know how to think about that. So then we come to this year and people say, oh, that happened 10 years ago. What are you supposed to do about it now? Why do we have to be upset about it now? It was a decade ago. He was fired. It was taken care of. But then you remember that they lied to us again at the beginning of all of this, saying that after their own internal investigation and all of that, they believed they would be totally absolved of any wrongdoing, but come to find out they never investigated anything. They didn't do anything until it was convenient for them. And then all of these people who did nothing to support Kyle and the other survivors/victims, they just got to keep their job like nothing was wrong, nothing happened. And then they just go on their merry way until this all comes to light this year. And now people are being held accountable, which great, they should be, even if it is a decade later. But it should have happened a long time ago. But I don't even know how it would have if what the Wirtz family says is true and they didn't know about it. The guys that did know about it and had any authority to fire anybody else were also involved in doing absolutely nothing about it until 3 weeks later, or a month later, and then letting him celebrate with the Stanley Cup after he had sexually assaulted one of their players. It all just gets jumbled in my brain because the way things did play out and the decisions that management made to not fire Aldrich right away, not do any sort of investigation, then of course that's why we are here now with people finally being held accountable. But we wouldn't have to be here if the team had done the right thing right away and either put him on leave while they actually investigate what happened or just fire him right away. And I don't even know where I'm going with these thoughts, and that's what the problem has been, is at some point I just hit a wall and it's like, what's next? What I would like to happen next is to be able to just sit here and have fun talking about the Blackhawks again, but that being because Rocky and Danny stick to their word and make sure that they do things correctly from now on. That doesn't fix anything that's happened in the past, but as long as the legal battle is still going on, they've kind of done what they can in getting rid of Stan Bowman and Al McIsaac. So organizationally, on paper, things look okay for moving forward. You still have the two players, one of which being the captain, who just looks absolutely annoyed every time he's asked about it, which is just disappointing in and of itself. I'm sure he doesn't want to talk about it. I'm sure nobody wants to talk about it. But it's because nobody talked about it that we are here. So being the captain of the team, more is expected of you. Even if he did come out with a statement later, taking back all the things that he said before and saying the right things, he seemed annoyed being asked about it over the summer, and it was just even worse after Bowman and McIsaac were fired. Patrick Kane's original presser wasn't that great either. It was a bit better than Taves, but it wasn't a whole lot better. His second one was. I don't really know what I or anyone else expect the players to actually say. All I know is that what we heard from at least the captain in his press conference after all of the firings was just really disappointing and off-putting, and that definitely didn't help with my feelings about talking about this team currently. So now we are here. My camera monitor tells me I have been sitting in front of the camera for 40 minutes. I don't feel like I have made any sort of progress in my train of thought because I feel like I've been talking in circles when I haven't just been sitting here staring off into space with no thoughts in my head. All I can say is that I'm trying. And I'm going to keep trying because you know what I do love? I love watching the game of hockey. I love watching my teams playing hockey, even if I don't, I don't really know what I'm trying to say, get the same level of enthusiasm or joy in myself when they play. I know it's still there, and I know that it's like this because my brain is confused about what to think and still trying to figure out how to come to terms with the fact that this team that I love and have loved and dedicated the last decade of my life to was responsible for causing so much pain and suffering to one of their own and just shoving that off to the side like it didn't matter. But that doesn't take away my love for watching the game of hockey. I still get excited when I see good goals or good saves. There's just something that's not yet back in my brain, but I am trying to get there because I love that. Like I said, I love my teams even when I really hate them, and I love talking to all of you guys about hockey, about the Blackhawks, about the Ice Hogs, about the Maple Leafs. And that's why all of this started, just out of a love for hockey, out of a love for talking about hockey, but that's been made fairly difficult lately, and that really sucks. And I'm sorry that there's been so many gaps in videos and podcasts. We're trying, but I've never really been one for just sitting here and not putting out genuine content if I'm not feeling it wholeheartedly. I could just sit here and lie to everybody, say that I'm completely done with the Chicago Blackhawks. They are no longer my team. I hate them now, which I do, but I totally cut them out of my life. They're no longer my team. But that would it would be a lie. And I'm not here to lie to anybody just for the sake of maybe some people thinking that it sounds better. Because the truth is, they are still my team. When I watch other teams play, I don't feel that excitement or any other emotion that goes along with watching the game of hockey. I don't feel it to the extent that I do with the Hawks and the Hogs and the Leafs. Even the Leafs, the Blackhawks have always come first, even when they play each other. Sorry to any Leafs fans who are watching this. If you are, you probably clicked away a long time ago at this point. Most people probably clicked away a long time ago at this point. I still feel that excitement basically in my soul, in my bones, when the Hawks score a goal or when one of their goaltenders makes an incredible save. I can tell that it's different between watching them and the passion that I have for that team versus watching anybody else. So I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that I'm just done with them, that's it, calling it quits on the Blackhawks. And I also don't think that solves anything, because if all of, just in some crazy world, say everybody who was a fan of the Chicago Blackhawks before May 2021 just decided that they were completely done, that just washed their Blackhawks fandom out of their brain, out of their heart and their soul, all of that, they were done. There's still going to be new fans that come in, and they're not gonna know the whole story. They're not gonna know everything that happened, especially as more time goes on. So who is going to really hold them accountable and make sure that they stick to their word of being better, if not for the current fans and journalists like Rick Westhead, who have been keeping this story going? And who knows, maybe part of my brain is telling me that just to make me feel better, but I truly believe that. Of course, the biggest way to have your voice heard is with your wallet. We hear that all the time, and at the end of the day, yes, the teams just want to make money. The NHL is a business, hockey is a beautiful game, but this league is so broken. And if you don't want to go to games anymore, I fully support that. If you do still want to go to games, especially because they are very cheap, maybe not as much since they've won 3 games in a row, then I support that too. And I think part of being a fan comes with the want and the desire to have your team do better, not just on the ice, but in the community, how they treat their players, how they treat people they employ in the front office, and all of that. We all just want them to be better, or that should be the goal. We all know that not everybody thinks that way, and I can already see the comments rolling in on this video that I've gotten on some other ones. But this video is not for you. This video is for the people that I know feel conflicted like I do. And like I said, you can't say anything worse to me than I've already said to myself, so just hit the back button. Don't even waste your own time leaving a stupid comment. If you want to give it a thumbs down because you're just one of those people that says, oh my gosh, it was a decade ago, get over it, fine. If that's going to make you feel so much better on the inside to give this video a thumbs down, go for it. But there are plenty of people that are struggling with their fandom. There are plenty of people that are confused and want to be happy about things that are happening on the ice, but then again, it's just a big weight of gross sludge in our brains. And again, none of these feelings even come close to comparing to what Kyle Beach, John Doe 2, Black Ace 1, anybody else who was victimized by this guy, or anybody feels, because that's not where I'm coming from with this. This is purely a fan perspective, somebody who feels hurt by their team because they allowed one of their players to go through this without helping them at all. And not only not helping them, but not doing something about it right away. Again, being an internal investigation, just putting him on leave, not even firing him right off the bat, which of course, in hindsight, we all would want them to do. But going through that in the moment, you have to make sure that you're getting the correct story. And of course, believe survivors, believe victims, but that's why you would do that investigation. But hindsight is all crazy, and it can be like, fire everybody because we know what everybody did and all that. But they didn't do any of that. They waited weeks, and then they let him have his day with the cup after firing him. And if he was so vital to the team that they just had to have him for the Stanley Cup final, then why would they have fired him if they didn't think something was wrong? And they still let him celebrate with the cup. And again, maybe it's all hindsight and mistakes were definitely made, but this goes further than just making a mistake. There's losing hockey games, and then there is putting somebody in the darkest place of their life and making them feel like nothing. Which one of those is more important? For the Blackhawks in 2010, it was not losing a hockey game. So that's where I'm at. I don't know that I resolved anything or that I feel any better, but now you know why there's been so many gaps in videos, and all I can tell you is I am trying, and it will get better on our end from here, because I do want to get back to talking about hockey, and more than just talking about the teams and hockey, but talking to you guys about hockey, because that is what keeps me going with this at the end of the day, and knowing that I want to figure this out to continue doing that is because I have met some of the most wonderful people from being in the hockey world, be it on Twitter, on my personal Twitter, or on the From Center Ice Twitter, or combining the two. I have met some absolutely fantastic people, and I know that there are a lot of great people in the hockey world, and we all want it to be a better place for everybody, and we just have to keep working toward that. And unfortunately, part of that is trying to figure out how to think about your team without it being slippery clouds in your brain. So I hope more than anything that the next video is a lot more positive, or if not positive, it's at least about an actual hockey game. It could be a loss. I feel like that would even be more positive. Going back to the whole weighing the things. Now I'm just rambling. This is what happens when I say I'm going to treat it like a solo podcast. I start rambling because I ramble on the podcast. Again, we are recording another episode tomorrow, so you can look forward to that. The Maple Leafs play tomorrow. The Blackhawks play on Wednesday against the Seattle Kraken. The Ice Hogs are back in action on Friday and Saturday against the Chicago Wolves. So if you've stuck around for this long, thank you. I don't know how long this is going to end up being on my monitor right now. It's telling me 58 minutes and 24 seconds. But again, I know I've sat here for many a minute throughout this, just staring off into space because slippery clouds. But thank you. I appreciate you being able to talk to all of you guys about hockey, about the game we love, that's something that I love doing, which is why all of this happened. You are what keeps me coming back here and keeps me trying to work hard through this, and maybe it just takes this time to, I don't know, process something. But thank you so very much, and I will catch you all in the next video. Bye, guys.